wasn't a lot of high quality components from a chemical engineering standpoint. So the uphill battle was get the thread into the influencers' hands. You get the thread into people who care about quality, who care about producing something of great value of work for them, and into the show circuit, and you start building it that way. And so my parents aggressively started to attend a lot of consumer shows and a lot of trade shows. And then kind of the second tenet of Superior Threads was let's focus on education. We know we've got quality, but quality isn't going to help anyone if quilters and sewists aren't buying into education, if they're not believing that, well, you have a tension dial on your machine, it's actually meant to be adjusted. And let me show you how beneficial it is just by turning your knob down. And you use needles. Well, there's many different types of needles. So let's try using the needle, which is best for a particular thread, and look at the amazing results. Look at, you don't have any frustration. You're able to quilt without anything breaking. You're able to not have a lot of lint. And being able to combine the metallic thread, which was a quality, and then teach on loosening your tension and using the right needle with it, that idea really caught on and became very favorable, because now there was a lot of people gaining confidence, and maybe I can use a lot more than just a standard thread. Maybe I can use a decorative thread now. And it's not that hard to change my machine's tension. And it's not that hard to use a different type of needle.
It's really interesting. And it seems like on your website that education still is a really big part of sort of what you do. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say it's the most important thing that we do. I think it's a fact. That's funny that I say my opinion is fact. Mm-hmm. I think that if you can teach someone to not be afraid or not be intimidated, but to enjoy the process of learning on their machine, mm-hmm. be it a hand-me-down machine from grandma or a $30,000 computerized long arm machine, if you can teach someone how they can be successful at using the tools that they want to use, mm-hmm. it makes them enjoy it that much more. It makes them feel like they are accomplishing that much more. And then it benefits, of course it benefits us, because now they want to come to us for more education, and then they like our products. It's a big win for everyone involved when you can teach someone how to use something properly.
That's really interesting. So you think that like beginner sewers are...
And by no means...
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
And by no means we're not the authority on machine education or quilting tutorials and techniques, but we feel like we've been able to establish that, like, thread questions, troubleshooting questions when it comes to any type of stitching, like 95% of those problems can be solved in just a matter of a few steps.
That's really interesting.
And being able to have everyone understand that is just so beneficial across the board.
It's really interesting. All right, so now you've got a bazillion threads. So I'm looking at your website right now, and I have no idea. So what I'd like to do is take me through a little bit of thread, like a basic understanding of threads, and then we'll get back to the IP stuff. Does that sound okay to you? Sort of.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so I'm on your... Okay, so where do we begin?
Here's a great place to start. Yeah. So if you're on our homepage and you scroll down to the footer, uh-huh. we have a column called Education. The first option is called a reference guide. So yes, if you click on the reference guide,
I'm there.
Okay, in the left column, third option down is called our thread selection guide.
Thread selection guide. Here we go. Okay, cool. Look at that.
This is a great place to start. If you've never heard of Superior Threads, this is a fantastic place to start. So what we've done is we've grouped our threads into buckets.
Whoa.
So here you can see.
Great. Okay, so just
well, you want to quilt.
Yeah, let me just tell you. So we're at superiorthreads.com. Then we went down to the footer, as you said. Then went to education, and now I'm at this really cool. I love charts. So it's a like a kind of a flow chart of all the different fabric. I mean, all the different threads, and it's really pretty. So it's a number of pages long. Okay, so tell me more about this. I just want to sort of, because we're on audio, so this is to know what I'm looking at.
That's right. Yeah. Understandable. A little hard to translate this from a visual to an audio perspective. So what we've done here is we've made our options and we've put them in buckets to make it easier to understand. If you are not familiar with Superior's thread lines already, so if you are quilting, we've broken into the main. Most quilters will choose fiber as their first layer of determining what thread to use. So if you want a cotton thread and you want the thread to be visible, then we suggest King Tut variegated colors. But if you want a cotton thread and it's going to blend in with your fabric, well then we'd suggest the King Tut solid colors or our Masterpiece thread line.
What's the difference between King Tut and Masterpiece?
King Tut and Masterpiece, they're both made from Egyptian grown extra long staple cotton, and the extra long staple that's we have a lot of bragging rights when you see a thread company use extra long. There's a lot of pride behind that. There's a reason why you state that, and the staple is the individual fibers. So if you have a cotton ball and you try to pull just one fiber out of your cotton ball, like that's a staple, and that's what makes up your thread when it's all twisted and spun together. Having an extra long staple means that the individual fibers which make up your thread are longer, and there is a direct correlation between the length of your staple and how strong in terms of tensile and breaking strength your thread is. So extra long staple means you're going to have a stronger thread, means you're going to have fewer start and stops on a continuum of twisting. It also means you're going to have less lift. So King Tut and Masterpiece are both created from the same stock of Egyptian grown extra long staple cotton. The difference is King Tut is a 40 weight thread, which is your standard quilting weight. Masterpiece is a 50 weight thread, which is thinner and used more prominently when it comes to piecing your quilts together, sewing your quilts together. You want a thinner thread because you don't want bulk at your seams.
So you have people using Masterpiece for piecing and the King Tut for the quilting part?
Yes, and we also have quilters use Masterpiece for quilting when they don't want the thread to be super visible. When they want more focus on your pattern or on your fabric, and you don't want the thread to really be kind of the key piece, which is really showing through your quilting. You want it to be a little more blending. That's when Masterpiece would be used.
Got it. Interesting. All right, so you've made me curious. So do you know where the cotton is coming from your threads? How involved are you in terms of, I'm thinking now about patents and other things, like, is that cotton of a specific type of, where's the cotton coming from in terms of because you just talked about the cotton.
Yeah, so it's grown in the Nile Delta of Egypt.
Really? So the Egyptian cotton is actually coming from Egypt?
Yes, it is. And there's probably about 10 times more cotton that is sold under the moniker of Egyptian cotton than is actually grown.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really good marketing buzzword. And you hear your sheets are Egyptian cotton, your towels are Egyptian cotton. The reason why Egyptian cotton is great is climate. Soil's really good. They've done just extensive genetic engineering on cotton plants to be able to make it pest resistant or flood resistant or drought resistant. The exact same thing that farmers here in America do when we're growing cotton, when we're growing pima or supima. You're able to test it through, essentially it's GMO.
Mm-hmm.
You take the best cotton which grows in the area and you just try to continue to make it better. And cotton in Egypt, especially in the Nile Delta region, has had a long history, 1800s, of really making it solid.
That's really
so
interesting. Are they using patents to protect that particular strain? Probably, I would imagine.
The strain, yeah. So Egypt's a little different. There's a lot of government control with the cotton crop in Egypt. There's a whole political climate with Egyptian cotton, and not that it's I don't want to say it's not complicated, because for us, like we're not I'm not going to a farmer's field and picking the cotton and then choosing the cotton of what I want. I'm buying cotton that has already been like ginned.
Got it.
And it has to meet a specification.
Yeah.
So the staples must be grown from a certain strain of cotton, and the length must equate 2 centimeters, or no, sorry, almost 2 inches. So 1.5 inches greater to 2 inches is what will make an extra long staple.
Really interesting.
And that's the requirement for our raw material. And then we freight it over.
Oh, wait, let me ask you some more questions about the cotton still in the cotton fields. So do you find then in Egypt that these cotton fields are they small farmers? Is it a large companies? I mean, this is like a big business. So what does that look like in terms, and then you're just buying it, you have certain people that you buy it from that meet the requirements. Tell me just a little bit more about that industry, because I don't know much about it at all. I'm pretty interested.
So the industry is mainly controlled through a system, a series of brokers. As most raw material, if I want to buy steel, I can't go to the mine and buy iron ore. I need to go to the smelter or work through a broker in order to buy the steel that has already been extruded for me to turn into furniture, for me to turn into sheeting, for me to make vehicles. That's right. That's the identical on how a lot of the cotton industry works. It is a mixture of some government funded farms, some small independent farms, as well as some really large semi-nationalized industries who are growing cotton specific for export.
Really
now, the volume of cotton that Egypt grows, I guess volume, if you're going to use like a metric ton perspective, is minuscule compared to, number one is China. China produces the most cotton. I think India is number 2. US might be number 3. Like when we did a big study in 2012, and in 2012, Egypt was number 20 on the world's most cotton producing countries.
Interesting.
But not all cotton grown in Egypt is extra long staple. It's only like 5% of all cotton which is even grown in Egypt is an extra long staple variety.
And are you finding that other countries, so you stuck with Egypt even though it's not the number 1 or number 2 producer, and it's because of this extra long staple? Or other is it unusual to have, like, is China producing extra long staple? Like, why stick with Egypt as you have for your product?
Because it's been proven to be the highest quality for thread.
Interesting.
If we were using the spun yarns to create bed sheets, or the spun yarns to create towels, it wouldn't matter that much, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert by any means in woven textiles. But the benefit of using an extra long staple, there's such a correlation in strength and low lint, and when you're sewing, that really makes a big difference. On On bed sheets, you're not going to get a whole lot of lint, and you don't need a whole lot of strength because you have a woven